With monster matchups on the horizon in 3 games in 15 days, where should the Pittsburgh Steelers' priorities be as we head toward a playoff push? Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Let's dive in here on a Tuesday. We're going to talk a little bit about some injuries, some other players that need to be incorporated and mixed in maybe a little bit more, and what this Steelers team needs to focus on and in terms of matchups and which teams that they go out there and they give their best effort against. The Pittsburgh Steelers, yes, they're going to go out there and they're going to bust their ass each and every game, but there's certain games that you might not want to put all your eggs in that basket and just go all in with. And I think one of those being the Philadelphia Eagles game. I think you go in there with a game plan emphasizing Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, that run game. I think you emphasize trying to get Mike Williams, Van Jefferson, and Calvin Austin the football also. But I think you're going to leave George Pickens out. Again, a grade 2 hamstring strain is a tricky thing, and the Steelers are going to have to navigate that muddy water and get George to the point of contributing late in the season here in the playoffs. That's the real goal here. The Steelers need to win one more game, guys. They need to go into Baltimore and win that game. They are the AFC North champions. That puts them in prime position to have they will have a home playoff game and to kick off the playoffs. And yeah, you would like to see them as a 1 or a 2 seed. I get that. Maybe even the 3 seed. You want to see them in that top upper echelons of the conference. But guess what? You don't risk health and depth to get those things. Those things are luxuries. And this football team doesn't need the luxuries. They don't have to rely on comfortable. They can be uncomfortable and still win ball games. They've won games on the road in a hostile environment this year. They've done things that they've had to do in order to manufacture a win week in, week out. And they have players on this football team that need mixed in a little bit more. So the absence of George Pickens might be very beneficial. I thought it was beneficial against the Cleveland Browns, and many people thought it wasn't. But you saw guys like Van Jefferson get 40-some snaps. You saw Mike Williams in that high snap count area also making one-handed catches, making combat catches, going up and high pointing the football. You saw what they can do, what they still can do. Mike Williams even said after the game, I can still do those things. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys that can come in and get it done. And when you do add George Pickens back to the fold, that just makes you ever more dangerous. You look at Pat Freiermuth, a guy that has literally caught 18 out of 19 balls here over the last several weeks. 18 of 19 footballs, my friends. That is awesome. And you look at Pat Freiermuth scoring touchdowns with Russell Wilson, being effective inside of the 30 and beyond. You look at Pat Freiermuth and you say to yourself, he needs to be involved more. 4 or 5 targets a game doesn't cut it. Maybe here in Philadelphia, Russell Wilson leans on a guy like Pat Freiermuth, leans on Darnell Washington, really gets that tight end game going. Really gets them incorporated into the pass game, which adds yet another dangerous wrinkle when you get guys like George Pickens back. What if you get Mike Williams going like he was with the Chargers for years? What if you get those things moving along here a little bit? What if you get Calvin Austin even going even more, scoring even more? What if you get Van Jefferson, a guy that still scores touchdowns, but you get him slightly more productive? You get him available in the big moments, and all of a sudden your football team becomes very, very dangerous in the pass game, guys. Very dangerous. Why? Because you still got guys like Connor Hayward, Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek. You still have those guys that will come up in big moments. You saw Scotty Miller do it. And what does that do for opposing defenses? It confuses them. It makes them second guess because they just can't focus all their attention onto George Pickens. They just can't load up on George Pickens. And the Steelers now don't have to come out constantly in 12, 13 personnel. They don't have to come out and be in heavy packages and rely solely on the run game. Now, all of a sudden, that loosens the box up for Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is running lights out. Yes, Najee is still being Najee, getting runs at opportune times, but his consistency hasn't been there. But if you can still get that 60 yards a game average from Najee and a touchdown, then you average Jaylen Warren's yards into that, and he can get 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70 yards a game and a touchdown. You can eliminate Patterson from that equation. Get him up out of there. If you have to use him, so be it. Use him. But you can use him now in more exotic and eccentric formations in different ways. You don't have to lean on him to be a running back. Then you have that 100 yards plus a game in the run game. That opens up that box a little bit and allows those runners like Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris to burst through the line of scrimmage and to rip off 10, 15 yards at a clip. You now all of a sudden become very dangerous. And who would have ever thought that losing George Pickens would be maybe a blessing for the Steelers? Yeah, you don't want to see it long term. Not at all. George is irreplaceable. But the absence of George Pickens, and you're going up against a good ball club with the Philadelphia Eagles, then you're going to play the Baltimore Ravens in a game which you win the division. Now, all of a sudden, you're learning and you're figuring out and you're growing again, growing each week with the players that maybe you haven't utilized as much. Maybe you have leaned on George a little bit too much. Now, all of a sudden, this team on offense becomes a whole, becomes very, very dangerous, guys. Giving the Steelers franchise something that they haven't had in quite some time, and that is an offense that can get it done from anywhere on the football field. They can play any style of game. They can grind the football out. They can play in the big shootout games. They can play in the games to where it's close and they need to get down into field goal range. And Russell Wilson has 6, 7 guys at his disposal that he can throw the football to, that the defense has to guess each time who's going to get the damn ball. Then you're putting players on big targets like Darnell and Pat, Mike, George. Excuse me. That may be a little bit smaller. And that's going to grind them down throughout the football game. It's going to put pressure on them. It's going to allow what, guys? They're not going to be able to come up to the line of scrimmage and play extensive, hardcore press man coverage against your wide receivers, because the size of your wide receivers, the size of your tight ends, the size of that room is going to dictate that they can't, because it's just going to be really, really difficult to sustain that through the course of a ball game. And eventually they would really start to win and rip off big, big, big pass plays. And then you're going to have to play a mix of press and mix of zone. And that's going to open things up for Russell Wilson, because these teams are not going to be able to pinpoint what you are doing. That is the whole name of this thing, guys. That is it. It's so simple. And I think we all make it overly complicated, but I'm here to tell you it's so simple. You literally have to just provide a level of confusion. Not for yourself, for an opposing team. That's offensively and defensively. It's very simple in the madness of creating these game plans. You're looking at the personnel they have. You're matching your personnel up against them, and you're figuring out where you can wear them down throughout the four-quarter football game, where you can start to take advantage throughout that game, and where you're going to be able to get your moments. Simple, basic, elementary. And when you have a run game like the Steelers with those 2 running backs, well, 3 running backs, Patterson's not my guy. I think he's okay, but I just think they grossly overuse him, and the fascination with him by Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin is a little bit gross to me. I think it's a gross mismanagement when you have guys like Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. I just don't want to see Patterson unless I have to. I like Patterson. I just don't think that was what he was brought in here to be, a key member of the offensive unit. I don't like it. But that's for another day. But you have on this Steelers team also an offensive line that has grown each and every week. Finally, we're not talking about Broderick Jones. When's the last time, my friends, on the live show, you were bringing up how badly Broderick Jones played, how badly you wanted him benched, how badly you needed somebody else in there? When was the last time you talked about that? It's been several weeks, at least a couple. Just saying how quickly time changes. How quickly things change. Dan Moore Jr. has been solid all season, and I know a lot of people don't like him. I don't think he's the answer long term, but I think he's played super well. I think he's done a phenomenal job. Yes, he's had his moments, but everybody's going to. Even the best of the best do. But this Steelers offensive line with the anchor point of Zach Frazier, Isaac Seumalo, and the rookie Mason McCormick playing really, really well. They have been way better. I'm not going to go and say they're excellent right now because they're not. But they have been way better. And what have they done each and every week? They have grown. And that is something really, really cool to see. Because what is going to matter the most in the playoffs is if a football team is hitting its stride, hitting its best football during the playoffs. And you haven't seen the Pittsburgh Steelers' best football. You haven't remotely close to seeing that. You haven't seen not even close to the Pittsburgh Steelers' best football. You haven't seen it. Not one bit. You have not seen it. And that's what's scary about this team. And I know a lot of people, this is a weekly basis where people change their opinions like they change their underwear. People change their opinions of football teams so quickly. They turn on football teams so quickly that, then they'll, ride their ass, man. They're not doing well. And then all of a sudden, the minute they have one decent game, they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But they don't break these teams down and look at them in the right way. You're not looking at everything that they got going on. And if you really, truly watch this Steelers team each and every week like I do, like you do, you are going to notice something that you don't see on every football team, and that is growth and development, different players stepping up, the team getting better at certain things that they may have not done so well at during the course of the season, each and every single week. And I don't care if the Steelers are the 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't care about that. I don't think you should either. Because what is going to be the most dangerous about this Steelers team is they haven't played their best football yet, and they still have yet to do that, and they're going to do it here before the playoffs hit, or maybe in the first or second game of the playoffs. You're going to get their best game, and that may propel this team to greatness, my friends. Greatness. And I think you got to really recognize it. And who cares what happens in Philadelphia on Sunday? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I hate to say that. I hate to say it because I don't want to be like that. Because the Steelers should try to win every single game, but they have 3 games in 15 days. 3 games in 15 days by the NFL. Making that schedule was absolutely dog shit, and they knew exactly what they were doing when they did it. Putting 3 very difficult opponents in a 15-day stretch for the Steelers. Expecting that football team to fall apart because that's what they were looking for. It was a setup for failure. I don't care. I don't know how that ever is put on a schedule and the league sits there and says, yeah, that's a good idea. No, that's a setup for failure. I'm sorry. It definitely is. Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs. 3-game stretch. And if the Steelers come out of that 2-1 in that 3-game stretch, my friends, that will be an amazing thing to do. That will be absolutely stunning. And in reality, the only one that actually matters at all is really the Baltimore game, because the Steelers go in there and they win the AFC North. And then if all of a sudden you're playing Cincinnati in week 17 or the Chiefs there, and it doesn't matter what you do in the next 2 games, maybe it wouldn't change your seeding whatsoever. Now all of a sudden you can rest players if you're the Steelers. All of a sudden now you can start to get really, really healthy for a playoff run. Maybe the Bills and the Chiefs are battling out for that number 1 seed, and they're playing their players to the bitter end. They're getting those soft tissue injuries. They're getting worn out. They're not going to be full strength. But then all of a sudden, here comes that 3 seed, that Pittsburgh Steelers team, that AFC North champion. And they are healthy, and the depth is there, and they are firing on all cylinders, and all of a sudden, they become the most dangerous team in the AFC conference. Could that be how this story is wrote? Could that be how this story ends? Quite possibly could be. And I think it's something that we all need to think about. And again, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, they need to be involved in Philadelphia by the grip, man. They need to heavy dose those two. Literally Feed them the football and see what happens. You need to try to get Mike Williams and Van Jefferson and Calvin involved in a big way. Get those deep ball chemistry plays worked out with Russell Wilson and those three guys. Allow George Pickens another week to rest. Allow this Pittsburgh Steelers run game to really get cranking. The offensive line loves to run the football, loves to do those types of things, down in, down out. Control the time of possession. Limit the chances that Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts can hurt you. Limit that, and you may come out of there with a win. You may come out of there as an 11-3 football team going into Baltimore, flying high, healthy, ready to take the division. You might leave Baltimore as a 12-3 division champion with 2 games remaining. Could that be the way this story is written? They have 10 wins. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't care what happens right now. They'll make the playoffs. I can tell you that for sure. The Steelers are definitely in the playoffs, and I understand there's certain scenarios that got to play out for the Steelers to clinch a playoff berth here in Week 15. But we'll say it's a slam dunk. And again, guys, you have a team in front of you that you ain't got to see in a long time. You have not got to see this if you're a Steelers fan in a long time. And some of you Steelers fans that are young that watch us here on Mic Drop Sports, you've never experienced this. You don't know what this is. You've never seen this. You've never felt this. You've never got to do this, take this ride with this team. Well, welcome. Get on the bus, get your ticket, let's go. The Pittsburgh Steelers are for real. For real. And there are so many things that could play out. But guess what, guys? Don't get too high or too low here against Philadelphia. Let them take a loss. If they're going to take a loss, let them take it here. Let them stay healthy. Let them just get out of that stadium and go and attack the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals and really slam dunk, really put an exclamation point on this season. Finish 13-4 and call it a fucking day. Wouldn't that be something? Maybe. Might happen. All right, guys, join us tonight for Steel City Live here on Mic Drop Sports. As always, we will be live answering all of your chat questions, and that is not no bullshit. We will answer them all. We will do our best anyway, but we typically get through it. So make sure when I set that show up, you're liking it, you're sharing it, you're subscribing if you're not already. And again, make sure you are tuning in, putting your comments inside of the chat. Also, here on this daily upload, we need you to comment, even if it's something stupid, just hi, whatever. Just make a comment, put it on there, like your own comment. I'll get on there and like the comments also. Make sure you like the show. Make sure you share the show. And let's get the word out about Mic Drop Sports. Guys, we need less than 280, I believe, maybe like 283 people. Subscribers, and we will hit that 4,000 subscriber mark. That's like that magic number that I've wanted to hit for a long time. So not a long time, but quite some time here we've set. So I want to hit that 4K, and then I want to hit 10,000, like I told you before the Steelers run out of that tunnel for the Super Bowl. It's going to be a big 2 weeks down there if the Steelers can get this done. It should be an exciting playoff period no matter what, regardless of the outcome. And I think your Pittsburgh Steelers are poised to really give you something to cheer for and something exciting to hold on to here in the winter months here and watch some good football late in the season. So until tonight, I'm Jason. This is Mic Drop Sports. Peace, my friends.